a snapper.
Good morning. Welcome to Morning Minutes. Michael Bergio and Mark Novak. Insurance, to be sure, to be sure, to be sure. Do landlords
Are you sure?
Are you sure? Do landlords need to be insured?
Sure.
To be sure. I reckon.
Sure.
What do you reckon, Mark?
Not sure.
First of all, what are you talking about insurance? What's it? What are you insuring? Your tenant, the building, the couch in there, or the rent coming in, damage. Is it like car insurance? We're probably very familiar with car insurance. How does it work for a property?
Look, it's definitely a different animal, and it works differently to most other insurances, the whole tenancy insurance thing. So it's a big thing that we get asked, hey, Michael, with landlords. Like, landlords aren't sure if they should take out this policy, what the policy actually covers. And we're not here to sell insurance policies today, but we're here to educate people, landlords, tenants, or anyone as to, what is it, who's good, who are the guys we recommend, and what does it exactly do? So what is landlord insurance, Mr. Bergio?
Yeah, so what I'll do, let me bring, well, first of all, it's just like your car. So you need it for your property, landlord insurance. I reckon half of the landlords don't even know it's out there, to be honest, because when I bring it up, a lot of the time it comes up when we're trying to get when we're trying to get an application to be accepted, where there may be a couple question marks about the tenant, i.e. they don't have, this may be their first rental property. They may have owned for the majority of their life and they don't have a rental history, or they're 18 years old and they, once again, don't have a rental, but they've got really great references or a guarantor. And we would recommend landlord insurance, because one part of landlord insurance would be loss of rental income. I'll bring up Terry Shear Insurance, who we use. Obviously, there's no endorsement. We're just sharing who we use, and you can do your own research if you want to. So don't read into the bullshit. We're trying to sell it. We're just going through the idea of it. Which screen, Mark, have you got it, or is it on now?
Got it. I've got it loud. I've got it coming in hot. Novak Properties screen. I just had the insurance now. I've got Novak Properties.
Okay. Yeah, so let me see if Facebook's got it. I should see on the iPad. Beauty.
Nah.
I love Zoom. So,
I've got Novak screen, Mr. Bergio. I don't have insurance.
Oh, so it just left then.
I did have it on, but it just popped off.
And then it popped off. Good morning, Luke. Where is it?
So, okay, while you're doing the tech stuff, let me educate everyone about it. Here it is. Okay, so if you're a landlord and you want to spend $350, $400, you can insure yourself against a naughty tenant, or if they do the following things. So you've got loss of rent, which is their death of a tenant, hardship, stuff like that. Oh, you just dropped off again.
Yeah, just
you've also got so now I'm back to your head. Now with that policy, it is brilliant, because what it's actually doing is, if your tenant, sometimes as a landlord, you don't really know if your tenant's going to be absolutely bulletproof. For instance, if you take an application, your property's been vacant for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then you get one application only, and it's maybe 3 singles, and you're not totally comfortable with having 3 singles in there. You imagine the young family to take it. But what you can actually do is take this policy out. And then with this policy here, how good is it? Check it out, guys. It's pretty standard that all the insurance companies are doing this, and they'll get, there it is, tenant damage, flood, storm. So it's actually, if the tenant ever has a claim against the landlord, it'll cover these following things. So yes, it'll do loss of income and loss of rent until you find a new tenant. Yes, it'll do contents for tenant damage and stuff like that. And people may think it's funny for a landlord to get contents insurance, but you've got to remember, as a landlord, you don't have, your kitchen and your bathroom are not regarded as base building, they're regarded as contents.
failure to give vacant possession. So how many times have you heard a tenant's just walked out of your property and haven't given you adequate time? Failure to give notice, death of tenant,
Yep.
prevention of access, rent reduction in
Yep.
case the building has to do work. Like, this is great. Flood, storm. Okay, so go on, Mark.
And then you got your pet. You got that one. You got pet damage. Pet damage is a good one. So how
well,
good is that? How good is that? That if you got someone that wants to take a pet, now I may be breaking the law, giving you this, telling you about this, but what we occasionally do is we ask the tenant to pay to insure themselves when they're applying for a property. So often the tenant goes, hey, the landlord turns around and says, no, look, sorry, won't take the tenant because they've got a dog. And we've had tenants turn around and say, look, I'll pay the first year of the policy, which is $380 odd, and that'll insure me as a tenant. So how good is that you can take all those things out?
Yeah, and that's like one of the big. Look at this, the failure to give notice, up to 28 weeks of lost rent. So it's big. Like, when most areas of, say, where we are, Northern Beaches, and I would probably safely say of Sydney, your rental time, your vacancy period is probably 4 weeks, I reckon, would be probably average of Sydney. And when you look at this policy, nearly every rent reduction, 6 weeks of rent, like nearly every part of it is at least 4 to 24 weeks of rent covered. I reckon here's a good one. What is the building? Protect your building against loss and damage. What is the building? So I reckon, like, at the end of the day, if you look at these policies, maybe a couple $100 a year, but if you're spending a couple $1,000 a year on car insurance for an asset that depreciates in value and loses 20% as soon as you buy it, basically, to assure yourself of your asset that is growing, your good debt, I think it's a bit of a no-brainer. Let's have a look what they classify as a building, because that wouldn't be, the building means the property owned by you, used as primary, because I reckon this would get confused between what would be covered by strata insurance and what's covered by your insurance. Domestic fixtures and fittings, i.e. aircon and heat, plumber, dishwasher,
and look, your strata building's insured, and that's just a fact. Has to be legally, it is. But often the strata will turn around and say, look, we have now fixed the plumbing repair in the ceiling, and now it's left to the owner to repaint the ceiling. You know what I mean? They've done the building part of it, but the owner, because paint is regarded as contents. So I think as an owner, you just got to be careful that sometimes the axe may fall on you and on your foot, because you actually not insured. You are insured under the building of the strata, but then there's items that you're not insured on. So another example is if the tenant is not insured for their contents, and then what happens is if their stereo gets damaged because of a water leak from the unit above, then, you know, that leak was caused by the strata, then there's a claim against the strata. It does get messy. Strata says we're not covering contents. It gets messy.
Pet damage up to $2,500 for the period, combined with building damage. Now, a big one, I'll just say there on contents, is contents is really building, so i.e. aircon. So if you've got a furnished property, or really any significant fixtures and fittings which strata would not cover, i.e. aircon, this is phenomenal, because I reckon they're those things that sort of slip through the crack between building, as in building for strata, and they're never going to replace your split system, which a bond would never really cover. Like, a split system could be a couple $1,000s, and most bonds aren't that high. So then you're left with covering the difference. These insurance plans will cover that. Building. So I reckon that's a big one to remember. All right, enough of that insurance. We can get back to you and I, Mark, with your phenomenal background.
Yeah, let's get back to my India background. So look, it's super relevant, eh? It's super relevant. And landlords out there that are watching this, or tag a friend that is a landlord, or may be thinking about taking the insurance policy out. I guess the message from us today is, if you are going to take the policy out, that's what it covers, that's what it costs, that's who we recommend. And, you know, the reason why bulk of our landlords that are insured are with this particular provider is because when we make a claim, we're a significant client for Terry Shear. So when we make a claim, they generally look after our property managers better, which means they look after our landlords better because we've got so many policies with them. So I think it's very important that you know, we can use that a little bit, that power of bulk that we do with buying policies and also with claiming on policies.
Because there's no point if the company covers everything if it takes 6 months to get the claim back, or it's just a head fuck to get the funds back. There's no point. Like, you're out of pocket, even though they may cover half a year rent. If it takes you half a year, like that half a year with no rent waiting for that claim and no tenant, that can be a significant. That can really suck and create some hardship for any owner. So for many reasons,
a lot of banks provide tenancy insurance as part of their suite of services that they offer. But as a consumer, how would you know if it's a good policy or not? How would you know if the Westpac landlord insurance is a good policy? But we've got this assurance because we have so many policies and had done so many claims against them over the last 10 years. We know these guys are good providers. But
yep.
Again, the message to landlords about taking out the policy. Like another one, Michael, would you reckon it's necessary to take out landlord insurance?
100%. I reckon you can. It's your biggest asset. Have as much cover as you can. And I always recommend doing your own research, because if insurance is just clipped onto us another deal where it's not like Terry, like for these guys, that's their core business. That's what they want to offer. It's like any industry. You buy this and you get a free value. You buy this. If it's just attached to a product, you don't really know if it's the best out there. Where if you compare all insurances like for like, it may be. But I think you've got to go down the path of looking at it, getting your own cover, evaluating, and you never know. You may be able to get a loan, and this Terry Shear plan is attached to it, but then it also may be a lower tier of this plan. So I think you've got to go into it looking for your own, getting your own. But if you can find a deal that's got it included and it's got the same level, then great. Just like any phone plan, you may get one that looks smaller, cheaper, but then when you go through the compare, it goes, oh, it's got less data, less minutes, less this, and you go, well, that's why it's $39 a month compared to $99. Just look at it your own and definitely take it out. It's your biggest asset. It can be very, very life-changing in a bad way if it's a tenant's not handled correctly, loss of income, loss of rent, and damage to a property. It's just not worth it for a couple $100. It's just not. So yes. Now,
another thing, if you're a multiple property owner, like I've got a lot of European landlords, don't we, Michael? We've got a lot of European landlords where they have upwards of 2-3 properties. They don't take it out. They'd rather roll the dice against the reality or practicality of a claim, because I think like we manage, you know, out of the properties we manage, I reckon we make a claim. Like we manage over 1,500 properties, and that's you know, that is what I always say. It's like 3,000 landlords and tenants that we're looking after. You know, I reckon we're claiming tenant landlord insurance once every 3 to 4 months.
Yeah,
that's not a lot. That's a lot of insurance money a month. It's a lot of insurance money being paid for nothing.
Yeah. Okay. So on the flip side, where that recommendation was, okay. So yeah, if you've got multiple properties, 5, 6, 10 properties, it adds up. $200 at $200 is $2,000 a year.
Well, the policy is about $380 a year, I think, currently.
Okay, $380. So it adds up when you got multiple. The question is, can you afford cash flow if something goes wrong? And if you can,
that's it.
That's the main thing. Think of this way. If you can afford to pay your mortgage, if your property is empty for 3 months, then you don't really need it, because most things will be and can be fixed in that time. And it's always better to just move, rather than suing a tenant, going down all that bullshit. It is always better, and I recommend just finding a new tenant. People get stubborn, or they go down this path or a path of suing, insurance. There are great people out there, but it also takes time away from you, your job, regardless if you have a property manager, it's headspace. It's property manager fees. I would always recommend, if a tenant's not paying rent, you kick him out, get a new tenant. Don't worry about claiming the 26 weeks or whatever. It's always better to find a new tenant. Some owners can't afford the month empty. So it just changes the dynamic.
I think to frame up what you're saying, if you're a mortgage sensitive landlord, take out this insurance. And if you're not mortgage sensitive, then don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Because, do you know what I mean? Like I think that, that's the main thing, because, the probability of claiming is low. Now, another thing is people would say, isn't that your job, Mr. Real Estate Agent, to make sure my tenant doesn't go into arrears? What do I have to take out insurance for? Because you're not doing a proper job. I guess it's... Yeah.
So then, but there's always extreme examples. Like we worked out a tenant, especially under the Residential Act, which is really great for everyone and really great for tenants, because it is someone's home, and it's not like, I do a lot of commercial, and some of the stories I hear of tenants is how long they can stay in a property. Let's cut the crap. If you work the system, you can work the system, but you only do it once, and then you're sort of blacklisted with all the boards. Like you can blacklist tenants, and then they'll never be able to rent a property again. Basically, there's that universal portal that we use. But commercial, like you don't pay rent.
You're talking about bad tenants, like just working the system, or bad agents or bad landlords.
That's another product. That's another one. But let's say commercial, if you're not paying rent, 14 days you can have the doors locked. Residential, it's not. So as much as your agent can be proactive, you always want that second level of protection, because at the end of the day, another layer. At the end of the day, you're the one who's sat. If the shit fight happens, as the landlord, the buck stops with you. The reality is you're the one who's going to get called by the bank. So you can play the blame game, but the mortgage is still going to have to be paid by you. So you need that income, and that's why I do recommend a great real estate agent. So
it's a real combo. So I think the message from today is landlord insurance. Do you take it out? Yes, if you're mortgage sensitive. No, if you want to roll the dice. And I guess if you've got a couple of properties and you can afford to maybe take the hit, because when you amortize that insurance paid over 5 or 10 years, it may be better in your back pocket. That's the answer there. And does a good agent, bad agent matter with insurance? Absolutely. Even the way a good property manager will use that policy to claim, a good property manager will make sure they claim every single thing necessary in that claim, because they're getting to claim it once. They claim it proper and fast, and find a tenant and minimise the leakage or the loss for the landlord. So pretty important to still have a good property manager, even if you've got tenancy insurance, because you may say, I'll get a shit property manager and then I'll just take out the insurance at a super low rate, because I don't care, because if something goes wrong, I've got landlord insurance. It's not the case.
Yeah, that's a big. A shit claimer only get 4 weeks, where if you're used to it, they like you may be able to get 12 weeks or 14 because of the wording. Let's face it, insurance companies make their money on you not claiming and minimizing the claims. So you need someone who's savvy, who knows how to not even work the system. Just
claim. I got a good word for it. Claim professionally.
Yeah, claim professionally, because if you got no idea, they're going to try and pay you out the minimum, because there's money out. They don't want to pay you out. It's not Santa.
You can be stuffed.
Alrighty. Anything else you want to add,
That's
Mark?
it.
A take.
No. Any say, and just to hi to everyone there, and have a great. Hope everyone had a great Chrissy and New Year's. Giddy up.
Awesome. We maybe in a Monday we'll see where. All good. That's a take. Thanks, guys.
Okay. See you, mate. Bye.